Okay people, so amongst the Straw Hat crew, as of late in One Piece, the two members of the crew that have really been focused in on, and we've gotten some pretty major bombshells about, have been Zoro and Sanji. Oddly enough, two of the big three when it comes to the One Piece crew members. Yeah, we've really gotten to dive into a little more of Zoro's backstory, in particular the history regarding his swords, but also, I gotta throw this in there fam, our boy has been cleared of all charges, and what I'm referring to is Sanji. After that last chapter a few months ago that was like, yo, Sanji finally lost it, he put hands on old shorty because she didn't want to give him a little bit of the Suki $5. It was like, yo, did Sanji finally do it? It definitely takes away, I would argue, maybe some of the mystery and suspense of like, whoa, is Sanji really having an internal struggle to the point where it's acting out and it's coming out in the form of him breaking moral codes that he just never would have. So definitely takes away from that aspect. But at the same time fam, our boy is clear, he's clean, he ain't do nothing wrong, so I gotta respect it and commend it. And at this particular point, I'm almost 100% sure that unless Oda really changes his mind, it is going to go that throughout the entirety of One Piece until the very bitter end, no matter what happens, Sanji's not gonna cross that line. Sanji's not gonna do the unspeakable when it comes to putting hands on the shorties. He ain't gonna do it, he ain't gonna fold, and I respect it. I ain't gonna lie, these last couple chapters though, definitely diving into, again, like I said, two of the most important characters, and oddly enough, these have been some banging chapters, and no Luffy, which is kind of crazy. Like, how many manga can really say they do that, where it's like, boom, you got a big chunk of chapters that are really highly well received and all that jazz, and the main character ain't even involved in it. Like, yo, One Piece. But without further ado people, I don't want to hold you up, let's talk a little bit of that One Piece greatness. Let's do it.
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
So where we last left off in One Piece, going into chapter 1032, Kanjuro's fire monster that he created is still going strong, and honestly, it's truthfully, wholeheartedly the final middle finger that Kanjuro had towards everybody, because yeah, that is basically going to be the catalyst of destruction to everything regarding this castle, and also very poetically and artistically what, you know, karma brings to Kaido and them, because everything that they did to Odin, little by little is happening to them, just in different forms, and it's oddly enough at the hands of their own people. Same little bastards that destroyed Odin's dreams and whatnot. Yeah, karma is coming and their day of reckoning has begun. Or it's been begun, you know what I mean. We're knee deep in this bad boy. We're headed towards the 9th inning. Did I just use a proper sports term? Hopefully. But things are afoot because for starters, obviously the CP0 have been doing some dastardly deeds that, yo, government officials doing what? Nani sore? They're not supposed to be doing that. They're supposed to be righteous. But similar to the real world, the government ain't always playing right. And Apu catches them and starts snapping pics and he's like, yo, big news, Morgan is about to drop me the bag for these pics of what y'all doing right here fam. It's about to be a wrap, and yeah, it's getting crazy. Which I was actually very grateful and thankful that Apu and Drake actually got in with the CP0 and whatnot, because they were hunting down Robin and Brooke, and I don't know, it's the fanboy in me that I just want Robin to be left alone when it comes to the government. Leave her alone. And obviously they're definitely not going to, considering the fact that they're this late in the game still trying to hunt her down, mainly because of her ability to be able to read the poneglyphs. They don't want that history to be dug up, because I'm sure it will show a lot of blood and really messed up stuff. At the end of the day, it's the Void Century that allows his story to exist, and it just really showed how rotten these dudes are. The CP0, like that squad in general, they are really casted as the, you know, the worst of the worst, because at the end of the day, for starters, remember when they hunted down CP9 for failing their mission? How many cover page stories? That was already, you know, just grimy as hell. And of course everything they did hunting down Robin with CP9 and whatnot. But now CP0, they even go up against Drake and they like, yo, we know who you are. So they just beat the crap out of Apu for taking pictures of them, what they're doing, and then they're like, yo, yeah, you kind of need to keep the secret fam, and we're gonna make you keep that secret. And I'm like, yo, it's getting dark. The government little by little just starts to unfold and showcase just how messed up it really is. But at the end of the day, again, it always goes back to that Void Century. They will do anything at all costs to make sure it stays intact of, again, his story. And a very unlikely team up at the very least for the time being. It's kind of crazy how Apu really wanted for Drake to team up with him and whatnot, and now they're kind of forced to in order to take down CP0 because they're kind of, you know, throwing hands as well. But then we cut back to one of the biggest things that it's really unraveling a lot of who Zorro is, because this is one of the strongest matches Zorro has had. Is this the strong? I want to say this might be the strongest foe Zorro has fought, minus, of course, his first battle against Mihawk when he took that massive L at a tiny little freaking blade and shit like that. So this is probably the biggest, and it makes sense why this is the one that we're really diving into everything, the backstory of his swords, all of that jazz, because yeah, this is Zorro's biggest battle, and obviously it's one of the biggest, you know, pirate crews that they've went up against so far. This is a Yonko's crew. This is one of the right-hand men of the Yonko King himself, a legendary creature at that. So yeah, we're diving into Zorro as we're going into one of the most biggest battles he's had thus far, and I'd imagine following this, what more of a big battle we're going to have minus Blackbeard and the world government. This is one of 3 final giant battles that Zorro's going to have. And I ain't gonna lie, this was one of the most weirdest artistic choices I've seen Oda make in a little bit of time, in terms of when King just started cocking back the crest on his head, and at first I was like, wait, what's going on here? This shit looks just so weird. Like, he pulled back his face, and it was like he cocked back a gun or something, and he like, I was like, okay then, these Lunarians are very broken creatures. Like, I get it, again, because King is supposed to be really freaking strong, but it's just so bizarre, because when the mask first broke off, it looked like, oh, maybe it's like a blonde guy underneath that mask or something, and now he's able to stretch his face and everything that's said throughout these last few chapters about the Lunarians and what King is capable of. Shit is crazy. Shit is real. Shit is dire. And he uses Imperial Deep Pride and says the pterodons of the past hunted prey like this, because when he cocks back his head, think like using a rubber band to fly something out. Like, that's what that kind of reminded me of. And it was just, again, wacky. At the end of the day, One Piece does get wacky, but I don't know. I kind of felt like King was not going to be silly in any shape or form, because he's always looked like this is a really serious killer. So to see him in that form, it was just kind of like, okay. I mean, he does look a little silly when he's in that flying form to begin with, but I don't know, it's just a little weird. And Zorro is still kind of struggling to take him out of the air. Think of, like, I don't know, Pokemon. That's kind of one of the things that it reminded me of. Like, you know, a ground Pokemon fighting a flying Pokemon, a little bit of a disadvantage because that motherfucker can fly all over, and essentially Zorro has to be able to knock him out the sky in order to get him on even playing field. Which is kind of lame, because wasn't it a few chapters ago that Zorro and King kind of agreed to, like, okay, we're going to have a sword battle, like, it is what it is, and then King kind of started flying all over again, and then in this chapter again, he's like, you want to fight swords, fights, we'll do that. Like, didn't you just say you would do that to begin with? Like, why are you playing for, son? What are you doing? Because Zorro hits a tornado black rope dragon twister, and it still ain't do nothing. He's unfazed by that with that wacky, freakish look that he has on his face from stretching his head. But I'd still, like, I don't know. I gotta say, it's just, what was you doing, Oda? And one of the things that really interests me about this situation, aside from, again, the Zorro side of things, is King's whole, like, everything about him. Like, what the hell is this dude? Because, again, like I said, the silliness of, you know, stretching his face or whatever, but the dude has wings, but Zorro's not sure if he's actually flying using the wings, and then he has this flame on his back, but, you know, it's confirmed from King himself that that's not actually a part of his technique. Like, a lot of very interesting things about this extinct, you know, creature, or, well, you know, from a lineage of extinct creatures at that, with the Lunarians. Like, this is a very, very interesting case of how the hell did these motherfuckers go extinct to begin with, or, you know, really get annihilated, if at one point it's even said there that at one point they were looked at and worshipped as damn near gods. Like, how do you have such a fall from grace? Obviously it took a lot, I'm sure, because dude comes across to me as almost damn near broken. Like, there's just so much to him and so much to his physique itself that is very fascinating, to say the least. Like, Oda is really intricate with him, opposed to, like, Queen, that is just a creepy ass big giant robot with, like, yeah, it's kind of cool, I guess, to look at his technology. This dude himself is like a rare breed. Pun intended, I guess you could say. And Zorro thinks to himself, like, yo, I gotta finish this soon. Like, if I don't finish this soon, it's gonna be a wrap. Which, yeah, let's not forget that Zorro is on borrowed time. One of the things is that after all this, Zorro is going to have to be in a full-on body cast for months or some shit. There needs to be a time skip at the end of all of this, in between, whether it be, again, a few months, or if Oda want to go crazy and do a few years, whatever it is, there needs to be a time skip, because, yeah, like, Zorro is going to need a little bit of time, quite a few amount of time, to be be honest with you, to heal from all this, because he was in a full body cast and couldn't even move after the big battle where he was blocking attacks from Kaido and stuff like that. You don't go from that and taking a little serum that's going to get you on your feet for a little bit and then fighting somebody like King and then after all is said and done be PG King. Like, no, this dude is going to have to sit out for a long stretch of time. Like, this battle does need to end very soon because Zoro's going to be out. Like, Zoro can't do nothing else after this fight. If he does, it's going to get very, very ridiculous because he took that serum that's supposed to give him a little bit more of a chance to fight before he's completely out of it. After this, there's no taking Luffy's pain. There's no jumping in the third hour of Luffy and Kaido. None of that stuff. Zoro got to sit on his ass, and he's going to be completely out cold after this. However, one of the really neat things, almost making it like if Zoro's the MC of this whole thing, because it felt like a shonen MC main character trope in terms of, oh my god, my weapon, my thing that is like, you know, burning at me is fighting back, because Enma starts burning on its own, and Zoro is very confused, like, yo, what do you think you're doing? And I love the way Zoro approaches it too, because unlike, you know, maybe I don't want to pick on like a Naruto or something like that, but or Ichigo, but like they would be like, what's happening? Why are you doing this? This motherfucker's like, yo, who gave you permission to start pulling some shit like this right now? Who do you think you are? Like, Zoro, such a badass in every fashion. Because it clearly is like doing whatever it wants at the end of the day. It's freaking sucking his arm out, the hockey from his arm. His arm is shriveling up as it's doing that shit. And then that chapter ended off with Orochi still once again alive. And this time he sees Komurasaki, which obviously it's Hiyori. And he's like, oh my god, I can't believe. And I'm here for it when it comes to Hiyori's revenge. I'm very much so here for it. Yeah, pretend you're gonna do something with him and snip, if you know what I'm saying. Get it done no matter how you move. Get it done. Yes, that. I mean, Orochi deserves the worst of the worst of the worst. I'm talking about having little kids busting bottles over his head type of shit, okay? And then when you cut to 1033, like I was saying earlier, it's just Zoro talking shit to his sword, screaming at his sword. Like, again, who do you think you are, son? You bugging out. Because again, you know, he's having an internal conflict with his swords, which One Piece, and we're going to talk more in depth about this in a minute, but One Piece is one of the very few series, and we've said this years ago, but we got to say it again. It's one of the very few series that gives personality, makes you care, gives relationships that actually have substance to it between people and inanimate objects.
Oh my god, One Piece, what are you doing to me?
And it actually works, and it can get you emotional, a la, think of the Going Merry. I'm sure you shed a tear, or you felt sad, or something there you felt for it when that whole fiasco happened. And I'm kind of looking at it like, yo, we're having a full-blown exchange of, like, almost a personality in a way, and seeing a bond and the camaraderie between a swordsman and his sword. Like, One Piece. And once again, just how broken King is, because when all of that is going down with Zoro, he just rushes in, and he's like, boom, jackpot, as Zoro's trying to stab him, and he explodes, and you would think, like, okay, you're exploding, you should be, oh, no, oh, King is still on his feet, huh? What's going on here? What's the dealio with this dude? Because how can you, like, explode, make explosions with your body and you're still totally okay? I mean, unless you're on some Bakugo stuff, which would kind of make sense considering it looks like he has these flames around him, but it's not a part of him. Like, that's probably more or less something, again, an exterior thing. I don't think it's like the suit per se, but maybe it could be. I don't freaking know. It's very, very wacky. Maybe it could be because he ate a smile or something and it's a byproduct of it. I don't freaking know, but it's definitely very insane that he's blowing himself up essentially and totally okay. Maybe his whole body is made out of flames to begin with, and it's just flames turning into the form of a person, which if you think about it is kind of crazy, the way Enma is like burning up, and then we got a man that's burning up right there. The battle of fire, two flamers, pew pew pew. No. And I love how during the other battle that's going on, because we cut to Sanji and Queen yet again, on that side of things we get even more exposition as to what the hell is going on with King and Zoro, and just in general him talking crap about like, no, Zoro got no chance, fam, sorry Sanj, not gonna happen, fam. That's an ancient Lunarian survivor right there, boy. And he explains that they're capable of surviving in any environment. In the distant past, those people were known as gods. So when Sanji throws in, so then what happened to them? Like, it was funny in the moment, like, oh, so like, yo, then how did they take a L if they were supposedly gods? But you know, there's many different factors of what could happen. I mean, at the end of the day, in the real world, civilizations have come and went. You know, the fall of the Roman Empire, so to speak, and, you know, at that point, they were probably looked at as, like, ain't nobody touching them. Like, it takes a bit of strategy and all sorts of messed up stuff to happen, but even gods can fall. And then we cut back between that and the Zoro versus King fight, and Zoro survived, you know, the big giant explosion, but it's still, like, a big-ass mystery as to what the heck this guy is, that he's blowing shit up and he's A-okay. And I love how while all that is going on, if you think about about it, it makes me wonder if Zorro would have mastered Enma before coming into this battle, would it have been the same? Because Zorro's hitting him again with a couple of more attacks and it's still doing nothing essentially, like he's pretty much unfazed to it all. It's like, what would have happened if Zorro was straight up and down with it? Because then as Zorro is once again fighting with Enma, Enma's burning up on its own, King just straight up is like, oh, okay, we ain't playing these games right now, and attacks him right there. Imagine if they weren't the case. Imagine if Zorro was 100% mastered of this sword, it probably would have been a different story. This is why I say that before we have the final fights and the final battles of all of this stuff and the final wars, we need another time skip. We need to get to the mastery of things like this and not just have like in the midst of it all, because a lot of growth has happened in Wano. Even later on it gets explained that Sanji's like, yeah, I'm not the same guy you fought before. Like from the beginning of Wano to now, Zorro is a lot stronger. Now imagine if we had a big ass time skip again, how much stronger he would get even from here. And then here is where we get a ton of exposition into the past of Zorro with his swords, because as he's falling, he's willing to risk his life to save Kitetsu. And yeah, it blows things open about the history at the very least of Zorro and his swords and his village and all that jazz and the connections to Wano. And I'm just wondering even further if there's anything more that's going to be revealed in terms of like, obviously it looked like that one dude that was connected to, you know, Yamato in the cave and all that jazz, looked very similar to Zorro. It just makes you wonder, how the hell did Zorro end up all the way in East Blue if he's from Wano technically, right? But we find out about this dude that he was essentially an old man that broke the laws 50 years ago at Wano, and basically he left Wano and he was seemingly a pirate and wanted by the government. So when Zorro was a kid and went up to him and was like, hey, I heard you were a samurai and stuff like that, he was like, yo, shut up, dog, you trying to get the feds on me? What you doing right now, boy? Are you crazy? And the person that crafted the Wado Ichimonji sword was this Shimotsuki guy, which again, I'm wondering how much more ties does he have to Zorro? Could he very well be his father, or what's going on there? Because it definitely felt like, okay, if Zorro potentially is from the land of Wano to begin with, and this guy escaped from Wano and he was living in this village that was actually even named after him, just a thought. Obviously, yes, we're getting a lot more into Zorro's backstory, the, you know, crux of everything that's going on with his swords and, you know, how he got them and all of that jazz. But I definitely felt like, again, it was demonstrating a swordsman's love and bond with his swords, because he's had history with these swords and it's been a big deal, his 3 sword style. But on top of the fact that he was willing to die jumping down to save his 3 blades, I feel like that was giving a bit more like Usopp and his ship, so to speak, that we saw all the way back in Water 7 and Alabasta and stuff like that. Like, it's kind of like that, but Zorro with his swords. I remember even Oda had did like a drawing, I want to say one time, of Wado Ichimonji of like as a human or something, and it kind of looked like Shimotsuki now that I think about it. And also, oddly enough, that old man was apparently Kuina's grandfather, and he had given Zorro 2 swords to begin with when he was a little kid, and he was the one that basically burned that in his mind from very early on about this greatest creation of a sword that he made, Enma. So this is what kind of set everything in motion for Zorro, just giving more in general of Zorro's true history and backstory. Well, not all of it, but a good chunk of it. And just like the old man said back then that the sword has to choose you, that's pretty much what was going on, and Enma chose Zorro. But the big thing that was going on here was essentially the sword was testing Zorro, which that's, I ain't gonna lie, kind of manly that a sword is testing the owner, like, are you built for this? Are you built for this? And basically it wasn't the sword itself, but Zorro's weakness that was really making that issue happen, of his arm getting sucked out by Enma and shit like that. Enma was like, you're not ready for this. And it wasn't until Zorro was truly and wholeheartedly ready, which I think him showcasing that he's willing to die to save these blades is what showed, oh, he got the strength, he's ready. And it looks like the sword is actually refined now, so now potentially Zorro is ready to full on take out King. Like, I don't know how much more of these fights are gonna go. They've been going on for quite some time. I ain't complaining, to be honest with you. I am not the biggest fan of short fights, so the only problem really that I would say is that, like, you know, we're cutting in between, we're cutting back and forth between this and Sanji and, you know, Yamato running and stuff like that. But I'm a fan of actually seeing the fights, and I'm grateful that Oda's been showcasing them. I just would love to get, like, okay, maybe one full-on chapter for the finale of this battle between Zorro and King, and him, you know, slaying him with Enma and all of that jazz. Like, I ain't mad at a long fight, I'll just be honest with you. And similar to how, like, Luffy's always like, I'm gonna be the pirate king, it was dope to once again see Zorro's resolve of, no, I'm gonna be the greatest swordsman in the world. I, you know, have to. It's my word to my captain and my best friend. And I want to say he was referring to Kuina regarding the best friend part. But very, very impactful chapter, very, very big chapter for Zorro's character, his history, everything stemming from Wano and how that village was named after somebody from Wano, the person that gave him the swords and gave him the idea. And again, the Shimotsuki character, that is that the same Shimotsuki Shimotsuki that was similar to the guy that broke out of the cave to begin with? Because if that's the same Shimotsuki guy, then wouldn't that make it that if he was Kuina's grandfather to begin with, wouldn't he potentially, if he is, couldn't he possibly be related to Zoro somehow? And maybe that's why he gave him those swords all along. And it's crazy because throughout this video, we've mainly been talking about Zoro, but we do got some Sanji to talk about because our boy is free from the shackles of self-doubt and self-loathing, because it was probably affecting Sanji very, very much so heavy, the fact that he thought he actually put his hands on a woman, even if it was a two-bit whore in the brothels of Wano. Nevertheless, that's not his swag, that's not his stilo, and it was affecting him and his ability to even throw hands or throw feet, whatever you want to say, because we finally got it cleared. Because the latest chapter as of the recording of this video, 1034, kicks off, and it's called actually Sanji versus Queen, which again, I'm imagining there's not much more for these battles, like I was just saying about, you know, King versus Zoro, the Sanji versus Queen battle. Maybe it could be getting wrapped up very soon if they're titling this chapter Sanji versus Queen. But we see that Momo is starting to get a hold of how to use these flame clouds, because obviously, you know, he's still trying to stop this whole thing from crashing down and exploding with the explosive down there and all that jazz. So we got a little bit more advancement on that side of things. I would love for certain subplots to be wrapped up already, like that whole thing of stopping, like, hey, crash and all that jazz. Onigashima, like, okay, let's stop that. Likewise with Yamato running, I'm good on that. I'm ready for that to come to a close as well. Like, just get to the damn end of the base and stop the freaking explosion. Like, I'm ready for that subplot to be over with. I ain't gonna lie, because I got so many epic things going on right now, and it's like you're cutting in between my Sanji versus Queen situation or my Zoro versus King fight, like these two legendary battles right now with epic exposition and character development and all that jazz, to show me Yamato running. Like, Yamato's a babe, but I kind of want my fight right now. Okay, similar to how we just blew open into Zoro's backstory, blows open into Sanji's yet again, because Queen is mocking Sanji using different techniques that his brothers could use, because something that has been, I guess, integral for a bit now in Wano to Queen's character is his scientific capabilities and his scientific nature, and he wanted to demonstrate to Sanji, like, I'm that dude, look, I can do all of the techniques that was a part of your father's big master plan, Judge, which I wouldn't mind seeing Judge again. I don't know, I kind of miss seeing Judge in them, even though Judge was a prick or whatever. I would have loved for Judge to just pop in and drop kick Queen into the ground or something, or at least attempt, because realistically I think Judge would get mollywopped by Queen. But yeah, because he uses sparking and Henry, all of these techniques that we had seen the Vinsmoke siblings use in the past, and he's like, yeah, I've been waiting for you to go into that suit transformation so I could show your father and prove to myself and your father that all of his techniques don't mean nothing, fam. I'm that dude, I'm the better scientist, even though Vegapunk could just walk in at any second and be like, what y'all say? Like, who the best scientist? I'm just saying, I'm Vegapunk, bitch. Sit your fat ass down, Queen. Like, it would be like that if Vegapunk walked in. Which, by the way, it's been a little bit since we've seen anything of Vegapunk. It would be a really awesome thing if Vegapunk just happened to appear here. He was in Wano for whatever reason. I'm just saying. No, it'd probably be rushed. We need a little bit of build up for that. But still, we're in the scientific realm, and that's a big thing. You know, the #1 scientist, Vegapunk. But again, Queen says that even earlier he was playing dumb about all these techniques, about Sanji's ability to disappear and all that jazz, because he already studied all this shit. Again, it's kind of been one of his missions to crush Judge as far as being a scientist, which is kind of dope if you think about it. It's in a weird way, right? Look at this paradigm, the fact that he is essentially trying to crush Judge as a scientist, and Sanji is almost forced and backed into a corner to defend his father's honor, despite the fact that Sanji absolutely hates his father, Oda. Because if you think about it, the whole thing about Sanji and his family and everything that's being brought up again because of Queen and everything he's trying to do, and Sanji's inner turmoil about not wanting to be like his brothers and all that jazz, and then now he's even fighting on his father's behalf against his will because he got to take down Queen. Genius. However, Sanji is starting to get pissed off of them being mentioned, even though, again, I think Sanji really needs to just come into acceptance of, I'm a Vinsmoke. I don't like them motherfuckers. I don't rock with them. I shit on them on their grave, but I'm a Vinsmoke, dog. Because of Queen mentioning their names, he bugs the hell out and essentially kicks off Queen's hand using a flame leg. Sanji's pissed. And once again, we get big confirmation that these characters have grown a lot. Like, don't forget, Wano has been going on for years, but in the manga, it's been going on a decent amount of time, where he's like, yo, when we fought on the dome, not the same dude. Which, yeah, after he used the suit, we've seen steady growth. And that's why One Piece works so well. Because it's long, we get all of these subplots that get development at the same time of, we've seen Sanji little by little grow, of him being like, holy shit, I'm not using the suit and things is wonky. It was just a few chapters ago that it really started to kick into high gear. It all wraps up to showcase that Sanji is having a big, massive change, and he's gotten stronger, and yeah, we've seen it. Because Queen uses stealth black, and Sanji's like, oh, I can do that too, and I don't need the suit anymore. Which is kind of fire, because again, if Sanji is getting all of that sober mask power, I can only imagine what he could take it to soon. Like, I can only imagine by the end of the series, if Sanji is capable of doing everything that he would do in that suit now, what he would be like years down the road or something. And we see the broad that said and claimed that Sanji hit her or whatever, and Queen basically, like I said, you know, he was setting dude up. You know, some people, they rotten to the core, and essentially he's been butthurt that she didn't want him. She was turning down his advancements, and it was actually Queen that did that to her, not Sanji. And Sanji's like, oh, I see what's going on. Y'all try to play me, fam. Where's my lawyer? Wait, tell somebody bring in Higuruma from Jujutsu Kaisen. No. Yes, people, Sanji, our boy. Again, it takes out the mystique a little bit of like, oh shit, did he do it? Is he really going that overboard? Yada yada. Then at the same time, it's like, our boy is free, fam. He ain't doing nothing. Sanji's still golden. And I love how after Sanji just starts kicking the living crap out of Queen towards the end of the chapter, he hit him with what looked like the Heartbreak Kid from wrestling. Shawn Michaels' sweet chin music, boom, knocking him away. I don't know if that's going to be the end of their fight, but at the very least, Sanji's mad. He's using techniques that he had from the Sober Mask thing. Imagine if he put on the suit now, which he's not obviously, but if he did it right now, how much even more of a boost it would possibly be. Like, insane. Very curious what you guys think about all of this madness for Sanji and Zoro's backstories being blown open, their new powers, Zoro's new capabilities with his freaking Enma sword, Sanji's new Sober Mask capabilities without the Sober Mask suit. And yeah, the insanity of the battles between Sanji versus Queen, Zorro versus King, Zoro's past to Shimotsuki, and all of the insanity that is One Piece greatness. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga on life. Bye. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and Zoro and Sanji, baby, two of the big three, been dominating. Love to see it. Have an awesome one.
So just go to